Hello, my name is Rachel Vogus, and today I'd like to talk to you about the author Sonia Manzano. Although she is an award-winning author, Sonia Manzano's name may not immediately ring a bell. For over 40 years, she was best known as Maria on Sesame Street. Manzano was cast as Maria in the 1970s after collaborating on and acting in the original Broadway cast of Godspell. As Manzano noted in her 2013 speech at the Girls Right Now conference, her life as a Puerto Rican girl raised in the South Bronx greatly influenced her writing. She said, "Everything that you write comes from your experience." We'll dive more into that as we discuss her books. Manzano has been publishing books since 2004 with her first children's book, No Dogs Allowed. Because she has authored a relatively small collection of books, I'm going to spend some time briefly discussing each of them. I'm going to start with my favorite. Becoming Maria, Love and Chaos in the South Bronx is Manzano's memoir for young adults. In this book, Manzano vividly recounts her experiences growing up Puerto Rican in the South Bronx with an abusive father, an overworked mother, and a large extended family. The book follows Manzano from her earliest memories up until the moment she auditions for Sesame Street as a young college student. I want to share with you my favorite passage from this book, which is also an example of the beautifully descriptive language Manzano uses to convey the deeply felt emotions of children. Consider this passage from when Manzano's fourth grade teacher takes her to see the movie West Side Story. My soul or some power inside of me begins to rise and I panic. Will there be enough room in my body for this new feeling? Make way, a voice inside of me shouts. I sit up taller because if I don't accommodate this emotion, it will spill out and explode, maybe even hurting those around me. My eyes open wider so I can see everything better. My ears pick up all the music sounds flowing and crashing into each other in the air, and I wonder, how long have I been sleeping? My God, how long have I been unconscious and missing everything all around me? Asleep, asleep, asleep. This movie makes things possible, music and words and songs and images that are possible. In her 2013 speech accepting the New York Women Film and Television Muse Award, Manzano remembers going to see West Side Story with her teacher. She said, "The world changed for her after seeing this movie. Not for the reasons you might think, though there were exquisite performances all around. It was the shockingly beautiful presentation of things I saw every day." In addition to exemplifying her beautiful writing, this passage highlights the catalytic energy of seeing your experiences depicted in art. The next book I want to discuss is Miracle on 133rd Street. Before discussing the text, I want to highlight Marjorie Priceman's dreamlike paintings. The curving lines and blue colors swirl the reader across the page and on to the next. Miracle on 133rd Street depicts Christmas time in an apartment building where the family's roast pig is too big for their oven. On their way to the local pizza shop to borrow their oven, father and son encounter their neighbors who are having holiday struggles of their own. The magic of Christmas and delicious cooking unites the neighbors into a big party in a tiny apartment. In her 2013 Muse acceptance speech, Manzano recounts seeing the families on Father Knows Best and Leave It to Beaver, and wondering if those families really existed. She said, "The big question was, if people like those in the movies and television seem foreign to me, was I also invisible to them?" Miracle on 133rd Street shows the Christmas celebrations of a New York apartment-dwelling Puerto Rican family, shining the light on a different kind of Christmas from a Leave It to Beaver one. The Revolution of Evelyn Serrano is the last book I'll cover in depth today. This book is a Pura Belpré 2013 honoree for narrative. It tells the story of 14-year-old Evelyn Serrano encountering the Young Lords, a Puerto Rican activist group in the 1969. Evelyn's interest in the Young Lords' attempts to change El Barrio coincides with a period of conflict in her family life. Her abuela's arrival, with her memories of life and revolution in Puerto Rico, stir up anger in Evelyn's mother, and Evelyn is caught in the middle of these two important women in her family. The first quote here is from Manzano's interview with Publishers Weekly on the Revolution of Evelyn Serrano. I thought it important to write about the power of youth. In her speech to Girls Right Now, Manzano says, I went to my own feelings about being self-conscious about being Puerto Rican at that time. At that time when everything was changing in 1969, where all of a sudden I was reflected in society and I was interested in my culture, I've taken those feelings that Sonia Manzano had and given them to Evelyn Serrano. This second quote from the book itself pulls together these two themes, the power of youth and the draw of culture. Evelyn, her mother, and Abuela are visiting the young lords at church when a poet from the young lords begins to read his work. Some excerpts. The poet went on about how tough it was to be Puerto Rican, how Puerto Ricans never got the good jobs, and how they could never ever live in a nice neighborhood. How sometimes Puerto Ricans got so mad about everything they took it out on each other. How much happier Puerto Ricans would be if they just acknowledged their beauty and their greatness and capacity for love. I looked to Abuela and Mami, wanting to know what they really thought, or maybe really to figure out how I feel myself. However anybody felt, I knew this. My heart was full of painful love, and everything he said was true and as big as the sky, and 5 trillion hands could not cover it up. And I was glad it was out and couldn't be taken back any more than one could fold up the sky and put it in your back pocket. To finish up our look at Manzano's writing, Manzano began her career as an author with 2 picture books, No Dogs Allowed and A Box Full of Kittens. Both draw upon Manzano's own experiences. No Dogs Allowed is about a family trying to make it out of the city into the beach. A Box Full of Kittens is about a young girl who wants to be a hero to her aunt but gets momentarily distracted by the titular box full of kittens. There are some big themes I'd like you to take away from today's presentation. To examine them, let's begin with this quote from her 2012 interview with Publishers Weekly. When you know your past, you can have a stronger future. Manzano's work is deeply rooted in her past. In Becoming Maria, Manzano directly recounts her own personal past and provides readers with a wonderful description of the emotional life of a young girl growing up. But Manzano's work, including Becoming Maria, isn't just about knowing the individual past of one person. In The Revolution of Evelyn Serrano, Evelyn's journey of self-discovery begins with exploring her cultural heritage with her abuela and recognizing her cultural identity through the activism of the Young Lords. In the passage I highlighted above, Evelyn recognizes herself in the words of a Young Lords poet. This is the amazing magic of Manzano's work. Young readers who may, like Manzano once did, feel invisible, may see themselves in the kid who carries the roast pig home to Christmas in an apartment building or runs to the bodega for treats for an aunt. Manzano mines her past and finds the gold there of deeply felt emotions of young people and the cultural pride of being a Puerto Rican New Yorker. Here you can see my references for this presentation, which I will also include in my presentation notes. I'll provide a link to these notes for the class. Before I let you go, I have one piece of bonus content. I want to take a moment to highly recommend Becoming Maria, Love and Chaos in the South Bronx. It is one of the best books I have ever read, and definitely a book I think belongs in every library in the country. If you have read and enjoyed A Tree Grows in Brooklyn or Cat's Eye, you will love Becoming Maria. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation today.